You know, I said it earlier, but we had our Christmas Eve candlelight service was amazing. We had 280 people here that night. Is that not amazing? Absolutely amazing. Our worship team did a wonderful job leading us with this. They put in a lot of work. Julie and I met multiple times to make sure everything was perfect and everything flowed right, and so we're very thankful for what they are doing for the church as well. But the best is yet to come. And that is the title of this morning's message, is the best is yet to come. And we are just a few days away from turning a page into a brand new year. And how many of you guys are excited about a brand new year? How many of you guys are excited about getting a fresh start in 2020, right? It's a very exciting time for us. It's a very exciting time for you personally, but also an exciting time for Cornerstone Church and what God is continuing to do here. So we are very excited about that. I know that we're all look forward to having a fresh start with the new year. But before we go any further in the message, I have another video I would like for us to watch. This video is very powerful. And I ask that you guys just go ahead and look at the screen and you guys can go ahead and play it.
Everybody has a hero.
Okay. Come on.
Mine's my dad.
Yes, I get it.
Since Mom died, it's only been us. He has a way of filling my life with color.
Dad! Which one?
That one.
Sometimes I don't understand his advice, but I trust him. And what always brought us together was our love for running. One day, I'll be faster than him. And when I am, I'm gonna win every marathon in the world.
Abby? What's wrong, champ?
Or at least that was my plan. I'm losing my sight.
And real quick, read to me the lowest level that you can see on there. What is called is interocular melanoma.
Eye cancer.
Unfortunately, you will lose your vision.
That was the day my father disappeared.
Okay. Come on.
Dad!
Wakey, wakey. Ready to run, champ? Come on.
I thought he would always be there for me. I guess I was wrong.
Dad, where are you? Dad!
You abandoned me. Where are you, Dad? Where did you go? Do you not love me anymore? Am I still beautiful? Are you no longer proud of me? How could you leave me when I need you the most?
Dad! Dad, why did you leave me?
Abby thinks I've left her. And as much as it pains me to hear that, she's right. I've left her.
The best that we can do is save the actual eye so that cosmetically she doesn't lose them.
That's my girl.
I understand.
That's my girl. That's my little girl.
There's support groups, and I know this is a very difficult time.
No!
I've left her to realize she's more courageous than she ever imagined. I've left her to discover how beautiful she is from the inside out. I've left her to challenge herself in ways she never considered. I've left her to discover how strong she really is.
Abby, it's me.
Dad?
It's me, baby.
Why did you leave me?
I was right here. I was always here.
Where did you go?
I was always here, baby. Listen, no one believes in you more than I do. You know that. Think about how far you've come. Don't you, baby?
My dad says he gave me what I needed, not what I wanted.
You ready?
Folks, what we're seeing here is amazing. This is a testament of true love.
Love
between
is
a
allowing
father
someone to see their true worth and beauty. I used to think my dreams were over. I thought I'd never run again. And even though I can't see my dad, I know he's guiding me the entire way.
All right, well, what a powerful video. And some of you might be asking, how does that tie into a new year? How does a video of a young woman who lost her physical sight, how does that tie in for us going into a new year? But there were some things in this video that really stuck out to me when I was preparing this sermon. And Abby said at the very beginning of the video, and a lot of times when we're watching the video, it's hard for us to pick up on the small things because we're trying to watch and pay attention to everything that's moving. But she says something. She says that I am going to be faster than my father. I am going to win all the marathons in the world. And then she goes on to say, well, that was my plan. And in Jeremiah 29:11, it says, for I know the plans I have for you. Not I know the plans that you have for yourself. But I know the plans that I, meaning God the Father, has for you, declares the Lord. They're plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. And as we watched that the little girl was running and she got to almost very, very close to the edge of a cliff. And out of nowhere, her father comes and grabs her. But he just doesn't come and grabs her. He grabs her and he calls her by name. And he says, Abby. He doesn't say, little girl who lost your vision, little girl who's about to run off a cliff. He says, Abby, and he grabs her with arms of love. And she goes on to say, why did you leave me? And the father says, I was here. I was always here. And then Abby says, where did you go? And the father says, I was always here. No one believes in you more than I do. No one believes in you more than God the Father believes in you. And then here comes a pretty crazy part. The father says, think about how far you have come. And then Abby goes on to say she finally gets a revelation that her father has been present. Even though she couldn't see her father with a physical eye, she was finally able to feel his embrace. She was finally able to feel his touch, and she was finally able to hear his voice. And she says, my father gave me what I needed, not what I wanted. Then she says, even though I can't see my father, I know that he is guiding me the entire way. And there's a point in this video where the father starts going behind the daughter and starts cleaning up her mess. the mess that she made on the counter, the mess that, if we think about it, that could be our lives this morning. He goes around and picks up the things that she spilt. He picks up the glass that she knocked off the counter and it shattered into a million pieces. He picked her clothes up off the floor that she couldn't find the right outfit because she couldn't see no longer. He hangs everything up for her. And this right here might sound like your year. This might actually sound like 2019, how it has gone for you. And this might actually sound like a conversation you have had with God this year. God, where have you been in the midst of my trial? Where have you been when I needed you the most? Where did you go when I needed you the most in my life, when I needed you the most in my marriage, when I needed you the most in my health, when I needed you the most through the death of my loved one? Where were you at when I needed you the most? And we can just picture putting ourselves in this video where God was saying, I was here the whole time, guiding you, watching you. And there are times where God will remain silent. There's this powerful statement that says that you wonder why God is silent, and it says that the teacher is always silent during the test. It's such a powerful statement because there are times in our life when we are going to have tests, we are going to have trials. And in John 16:33, it says that I tell you all this so that you may have peace in me. Me meaning God the Father. He says, in this world, you will have many trials and tribulations. That's a promise that you are going to struggle. That you are going to have times where you have to face a mountain that you never thought in a million years you were going to have to face. You are going to be walking into a valley that you never thought in a million years you were going to have to walk in. But then God ends that beautiful verse with wonderful news. He says, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. And the conversation between Abby and her father reminds me a lot of the conversation that Habakkuk has with God the Father in chapter 1. And it says, in verse 2, it says, how long, O Lord, must I cry for help, and you not listen to me? Violence is everywhere I cry, but you do not come to save me. But then God quickly responds to him in verse 5, and it says, look all around you. There is something that I am doing in your day. There is something that God is doing in 2019 that he is trying to get you to understand his power and his grace and his mercy and how he can turn ashes into beauty. And he says, Habakkuk, look around you. He says, I am doing something in your day. He says, but here's the crazy thing about this conversation that they're having. God says that even if I would tell you what I am doing, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe if I told you what I was trying to do in your life. You wouldn't believe me if I told you how I was going to use your pain to show off and be an example of my glory. How I don't see how you're going to believe me telling you that I'm going to turn your ashes into beauty for my glory. And a lot of us has had maybe this conversation with God this past year in 2019, and the question was why and where were you? Because we wasn't expecting the things that has happened to happen. And I believe that how you turn the page, how you close the chapter in 2019 is going to determine how you start writing your next chapter in the year 2020. It's all about perspective. Everything that we do is about perspective and how we see a situation that we are going through. And I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions. We all know that they don't work. We know that they don't work. I'm going to get a membership at the gym. Lasts for about 30 days. You know, I have these big promises and big plans, and I'm going to learn how to sew, and I'm going to learn how to cook, and I'm going vegan, and I'm going vegetarian, I'm going organic, and it's just going to be so awesome. I can't wait. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the way that you start your year, not with just a single word, but with your actions of your life. The way that you aim your year on the very first day of January is going to say a lot about how your year goes in 2020. If you go to some party with some friends or family and you're there having a good time and you're celebrating, you're playing board games or whatever you do, and then the clock strikes 12 and you throw confetti up and you're like, well, I've done this before, Happy New Year, you know, blah, 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 the whole New Year's thing that you're supposed to say and do and be cheerful. If you have that type of attitude in your mind when you go into a new year, you are going to miss the moment saying that I want to send and I want to put my life on a specific direction this year. And it is very possible that if we go into this new year with a bad attitude or the wrong perspective of life, then it is very possible for 2, 3, 4, 5 months into the year 2020, you find yourself in the exact same position that you are in right now. Because it's about your perspective in life, your perspective of your situation. You know, Proverbs chapter 23, verse 18 tells us that there is surely a hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. You know, this new year, as a church, I would really like for us to start off by saying 2 powerful and life-changing words. And those 2 words are very simple, but they're very powerful. They are a game changer in your life. They are a game changer when it comes to your perspective. And that is, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. You see, we all have plans that we want in the year 2020. And a lot of you are now to the point in your life where you're like, I need somebody in my life that is bigger than myself in my own life. I have come to the understanding that I cannot do this anymore on my own strength. The year 2019, I feel like I got knocked upside the head every single day by the enemy, every single day by situations that arose on a daily basis. But you are to the point now where you're like, I'm going to lift my eyes to a maker. I'm going to lift my hands to a God that sets me in motion and surrender my life, surrender my plans, surrender my dreams, surrender my own will for my life. And I'm going to say, yes, Lord. Could you imagine what would happen if we started off the year by saying, God, your will be done, not mine? You know, when Jesus was talking with his disciples and he was telling him that his time of departure was coming near, they didn't really understand the big picture. They didn't understand the big story. They were too busy arguing about who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And he says that the time for the Son of Man to be glorified is at hand. And he goes on to help them out a little bit. He said, if a seed falls on the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if a seed falls on the ground, then it bears much fruit. And then listen to what he says at the very end. He says, God, glorify your name. God, glorify your name. Isaiah 26, verse 3, it tells us that you keep in perfect peace all who trust in you. All whose thoughts are fixed on God. Where are your eyes fixed at right now? Are your eyes fixed on your current situation that you're facing? Is your eyes fixed on a situation in the past that you are just now getting over? You see, next week we're going to be starting a 4-week message series titled the Grudge. And basically it's talking about holding on to things that hurt us. And it's basically a 4-week message series on unforgiveness. Because unforgiveness is very, very toxic, carrying unforgiveness over into a new year. We are called to forgive just as Christ has forgiven us. And how we go into this new year, church, is going to determine 2020 for us. Isaiah 26:8 says, "Yes, Lord, walking in the way of your laws, we wait for you. Your name and renown are the desires of our hearts." What are your desires this morning for your new year? Are you wanting to get a relationship with Christ? Are you wanting to be a better husband or be a better wife or be a better mother or be a better father or brother or sister or whatever it is? What is the desires of your heart? And then in verse 9, one verse down, it says that my soul yearns for you in the night, and in the morning my spirit longs for you. What is your soul yearning after this morning? What is your spirit longing for? Where are your eyes fixed? You see, a lot of us has climbed one of the most difficult mountains that we're ever going to have to face in our life. Maybe you were diagnosed with some type of a sickness. Or maybe your marriage is falling apart at the seams. Maybe your son or your daughter is 15,000 miles away from you feel like that they're ever going to come back home to Christ. Maybe you've lost a loved one, and these things that I'm mentioning never crossed your mind. You never thought in a million years that you were going to have to face what you are facing right now. It was very unexpected. And you're walking in the valley right now, and you're wondering, God, where have you been? Why do I not see you? Why can I not feel you? Why can I not hear your voice? But God is telling us this morning that He has always been there. That's a promise that we can stand on because He promises us that He will never leave us nor forsake us. And that is a promise that should fill our hearts with joy. Because even though you're going through the midst of a trial right now, even though maybe the current situation that you're going to have to face or that you're currently facing right now, maybe that might spill over into this new year. But it's about your perspective and how God can speak to your heart. Because maybe if God can just speak to your heart and you say, yes, Lord, to your plans, maybe it might change your perspective, but also it might change your perspective of this past year and the situations that you have had to face. God is doing a new work in you this very moment. God is doing a new work in the church. God is doing a new work in the community. And I am believing with you guys that the year 2020, the best is yet to come. For you, for the church, for the community. 2020 vision, when you go to the eye doctor, means that you have perfect vision. And I am praying and believing with you that your year is going to be great. Now, one thing that I am not saying that you're not going to have difficult times. I'm not saying that you're not going to have to climb a mountain. I'm not saying that you're not even going to have to climb 3 or 4. You might have to climb 3 or 4 mountains in the year 2020. You might feel alone. You might feel that God has abandoned you. You might feel like you can't feel His embrace. But one thing that I am promising you this morning is that He promises us that He will never leave you nor forsake you. Amen? Is that not a promise that should cause our hearts to leap with joy this morning. You know, when I go back and think about the prodigal son and how his father gave him a very fresh start when he decided in his mind that it was time for him to come back home to Christ. A lot of you, that is your story. And a lot of you are waiting for that moment for you to come back home to the Father. And I would like the worship team to come on up, please. And I know last week we extended an invitation to come back home to the Father. And maybe you were a little bit nervous, maybe you were a little bit held back, and you're like, I don't really know if this moment's for me, I don't really know if this is for me. And you're like, you know what, I missed that opportunity last week, but I feel this week that I'm ready. I feel that this week, or that today, that I am ready to get my life back on track with God. And what a better gift to give yourself than the gift and salvation of Christ for this new year. Stand with me, church, please. You know, I feel that, I'm sure all the pastors in here agree that the number one thing that we could give, or that the Holy Spirit can give, is an opportunity for you guys to respond to Him. And in Scripture, it says that we are supposed to work out our own salvation. I can't do that for you. None of the other pastors here can do that for you. Your wife or your spouse can't do that for you. This is a moment between you and your Creator. This is a moment between you and God, the Creator of everything. And so what I'm going to ask is that everyone bow your heads and close your eyes. And I want to extend that invitation again to you this morning. And I want you to search your hearts this morning. And some of you right now are at the point in your life where you are about to break. You're like, God, I don't even know if I want another new year to come because I don't know what it's going to hold for me and my family. You know, some of us want our entire life game plan to be mapped out before we look at God and say, Lord, I will say yes to your will. I will say yes to your plan. But God is saying, do you trust me? Do you have faith that I want to give you a future of hope? And if you are ready to put your trust in Jesus Christ, if you are ready to surrender your life to Him, when I count to 3, all I want you to do is simply just raise your hand. I'm not going to call you forward. This is an intimate moment between you and the Lord. So again, on the count of 3, just lift your hands and just keep them raised for just a moment. 1,